Hello everyone, my name is Julia Makulitz, and today I'll walk you through a workshop, Developing Generative AI Experiences for Your Extension. This document, available for you during this workshop, contains introduction, prerequisites, as well as the tasks that I will go through with you that will present to you and help you learn about our Developers Toolkit, referred to as Copilot Toolkit, to get started with extending Copilot in Business Central with your own AI-powered features. So, let's get going. To complete this workshop, you'll need to have access to a sandbox environment in Business Central that is at least version 24.0 or newer, and that tenant that you used has to be enabled for managed and share AI resources. If you received a test user from Microsoft, that is likely already enabled. Make sure you have a Visual Studio Code installed and get our extension to develop with AL. Perfect. So let's get started. If when logging into your environment, you encounter this pop-up, more information required, please proceed with these steps to enable multi-factor authentication for your user. Click Next. And after this site is loaded, you can decide if you want to set it up with the Microsoft Authenticator application or with your phone device that you have with you. Let's first go through the steps for the Microsoft Authenticator application. First, on your phone device, install the application, getting it either via clicking Download Now or searching in your respective App Store. After you have installed the application, choose Next. Add an account of type Work or School, and then click Next. Scan the QR code displayed here with your phone device from the Microsoft Authenticator app. After you have scanned the QR code, choose Next and follow the steps displayed both on your phone device and on the website. If you select to set up with your phone device, with your phone number, select I want to set up a different method and choose method phone. Confirm, enter your phone number, and then click Next to receive a code and input it. After completing either of those two methods, the multi-factor authentication will be set up for your user and you will be able to access your Business Central environment. Okay. I am already logged into my Business Central Sandbox environment, as you can see here. So then I could go and download content of the sample application that we will be developing on today. In our BC Tech repository on GitHub, you can find within Azure OpenAI, samples Azure OpenAI folder, a subfolder, basic item substitution. There is also a more advanced sample Copilot application, but I will mention that at the end of the workshop as well. Today, we'll be working on the basic example and using this source code file. Please make sure to download the one that ends with 1p alf. After downloading that zip file, unpack it and then open it within Visual Studio by choosing Open Folder. This file is also linked within the document that you have been provided with. All right, perfect. So I have already done that before I start recording. So this is this folder opened in my Visual Studio Code. So now we have to download symbols and set for Microsoft Cloud Sandbox. Here, make sure to fill your environment name for my sandbox and then download symbols again. You'll have here a pop-up to sign in and enter the code, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So you click Copy and Open, And then in the web browser where we are logged into Business Central, go to aka.ms/device login and paste the code we have just copied. Next, we select the correct account and approve all of the necessary windows to then sign in. After we have a confirmation that we may close this window, that's exactly what we're going to do, and go back to the window and try sending request again. Awesome, it worked. So now we can actually start encoding. So let's see what this version of our extension does. To do that, we can now, using Ctrl F5, publish it to our sandbox. After it is published, we can go and within Business Central, let's open the page Items. Here, let's pick one of the item cards to open. And then within Substitutions, we have a new action, Suggestive Copilot. This inputs the item we're trying to substitute, and let's see the generation. As you can see, Copilot generates some example substitution for us, and we can confirm, regenerate, and discard what Copilot has generated. All right. And that would conclude task 0, getting started. Before we move to the next task, let's quickly see what's going on behind the scenes. Let me bring your attention to a specific code unit, which is this one, Generate Item Subproposal Code Unit. Here is where we use most of the Copilot toolkit and call the large language model to produce our substitution suggestions. In a procedure chat, this is where we go through all of the steps to get suggestion from Copilot. Each feature that uses the Copilot toolkit should have its own capability. Those capabilities are then visible on this page. Copilot and AI capabilities, and that's also where Microsoft lists all of the capabilities that are currently available. As you can see, there's plenty in previews and marketing text generally available, and we can also find our own capability that we're using, published by BC24, which is what we call it in the app.json. Every time we ask Copilot, we ask the large language model to generate us suggestions, we need to set both authorization and the Copilot capability we're referring to. Each capabilities are set up on installing or updating the extension. As you can see here, we register the capability Find Item Substitution if it's not already registered. So then we set the Copilot capability and set authorization. And for that, we choose chat completions as the type of completions and our model version that we want to refer to. As you can see, you do not need to bring your Azure OpenAI key or even have one for this workshop, because this tenant is enlisted onto the managed and shared resources. So the setup is very easy. Then, in order to provide a request, we set tokens and temperature, which I won't be getting a lot into. But most importantly, we create system message and user message, which both are prompts for a large language model. So let's explore how those two are created within our extension. Let's see where a procedure is used. Get system prompt. So the system prompt is the instruction that you're giving to the large language model of what you're wanting to ask it to do. It is not the user input yet, but the general description of what we expect to get. For example, here we tell the large language model that the user will provide an item description, a list of items, and that it is to find substitutions for that item. We also request that the output should be an XML containing several informations about the suggested substitutions. We also can add some other instructions like skip empty nodes, do not use line breaks or other special characters, and so on and so on. Then we also need to let the large language model know what are the items and what is user inputting to get there. Because as we've seen, the user can input here what item it wants to substitute. So where does this come to play? Here, getting the user prompt first lists the available items that are in Business Central, and then adds this input user, that is the text field in our prompt dialog. That is because we need to let the large language model know what data is available to choose from. Copilot does not have access to your Business Central data. You cannot just go into your Business Central and know what items are there. No, we provide that all as part of the prompt. And then after both system prompt and user prompt are provided, we can generate the completion, and if it's a success, exit it, and then work on it to get it in a form of the records that you've seen there from XML, parse it from XML to a table that we can display on a page. Awesome. So now that we know how the inner workings of the Copilot here in this extension work, let's go back to the tasks and work through them together. Task 1 brings to your attention a new feature, a new action area that has been added in version 24.0. This way, we'll be able to add a Copilot action that will be more visible to your customers to easier discover and use your AI features. Let's do it. Let's open the item sub-entry Copilot page extension file. There we go. And add a new area, an action in a new area in this extension. So we're going to add last, and in area prompting, this new area, we can add a new action. It is going to act exactly like this one, so we could just reference it, but I want you to show how adding the action fully works here. So just ask them item Copilot action. Copilot action. Awesome. Let's save and publish our extension again. Let's now close and refresh the substitution page. And here now we can see the Copilot action that we made. If the contextual menu on the bottom is hidden, we can also access it from here. And that takes us to the prompt dialog, just as the previous action did. Awesome. And with that, we have completed task 1. It is worth mentioning that this new action area is available in list part worksheet, and standard dialog page types. Let's move on to the task number 2, changing the prompt for Copilot. This task introduction also explains parts of what I have mentioned already, but feel free to read it if you want to know more. What we would like to do in this task is modify the prompt for Copilot to only suggest items that have a quantity larger than 0. For that, we need to open the generate proposal code unit. We're generating, as I mentioned before, the ifs. And then after this line, try to suggest several relevant items if possible. We can add another line that will say only suggest items with quantity above 0. Perfect. But now still the Copilot doesn't know what quantity each item has because we only provided with number of the item and the item descriptions, meaning that for the Copilot to know about what quantity is the item up in, we need to provide it to it. For that, let's for each item that we are here, and calculate the field's inventory to know what inventory is available, and then add it here to the user prompt. Quantity. Of course, we have to format inventory as it is a decimal. And now this will be the prompt and the Copilot will know about it. So again, after publishing our extension, we can refresh the page. And then suggest with Copilot. And we have some substitutes. But without changing how our response looks like and how we present it, we won't really know if the Copilot actually gave us a list of items that had quantities above 0. So as an optional part of this task, we can also change this part of the prompt dialog page, which is the content area, to also display the quantity. So let's do this right now. For that, we need to add a quantity to our custom table that we use in this prompt dialog page over here. Let's add it here. Adding a decimal quantity field. And then on the page, here in the contact area, this is the page that it is using. And here we will display, after the name, quantity. Perfect. Now, however, we have to remember that each time we insert this, we also need to calculate that field, as the Copilot does not return to us what quantity this item is with. We didn't ask it to do that. So in the load procedure of that sub page, every time a record is inserted for it, we need to calculate, we need to find the item it was referring to and calculate its quantity here as well. So we need to have access to the item record. And then every time we add a new suggestion in here, every time we insert a record here, we try to find the number of an item that we're referring to and calculate inventory so we can insert inventory. And then let's publish our extension again. And generate substitutions for this chair. And now, as you can see, we have the quantity displayed here, and another task of this workshop has been completed. Let's see what the next task holds for us. So now we move on to exploring the prompt dialog page type and adding something that also is a new feature in this release. So let's talk about the prompt guides. As you can see, when we now open this prompt dialog page, we already have inserted the item description, the item name, into it. But what if we wanted the user to specify more themselves and not immediately paste the input into this text area? So let's see where that happens in this prompt dialog page then. We see the chat request, which is the input that a user has provided. When we set the source item on opening the page, we override it here to be that description. Let's comment that line out and see what changes. Now, after opening it, we have an instructional text instead of pasting the input already. But a user may not know exactly what we're looking for them to provide. So let's create a prompt guide. It is once again a new area on a prompt dialog page type. So let's go to Actions. And then add an area to our tab. Area prompt guide. Here, we can add an action. Describe item, for example. And then add application area all, caption, And on action, we can either just have item name here, or also paste the item source item description to even further help them. So let's see how that impacted our extension. Publish. And reload the page to see what changed. Let's open. And now you can see the instructional text here and in the background, and the new icon that appeared here, the prompt guide. And within here, we have this new action that we just added, after clicking which the input is replaced with a guide for the user to better understand what is expected of them. However, you have to remember that your prompt guides have to be compatible and specific with how you request with Copilot, how you request to the large language model the completion. Because here, even if we specify yellow, our prompts are not specific, they're not good enough for Copilot to fully understand and return what we expect of it to return. Because even if we asked prioritizing items that are yellow, we only got one yellow, and just the desk is first. However, this presents how to tweak and adjust those things and help your users on board and make the best out of your features. And that completes task 3. Let's move on to task 4, that explores the prompt options area in the prompt dialog page type. The prompt options area offers more controls and options you can provide to your user. For example, within our item substitutions, let's let user decide if they want to have multiple generated suggestions for substitutions or only one. For that to happen, let's open our code unit where we create the prompt. And here we are going to comment out, try to suggest several relevant items if possible, and create a global variable suggest single item. Then, as written in the document, we want a procedure to set suggest single item and then within getting the system prompt, if we want to suggest single item, then we want the system prompt to say we only want it to say only ever suggest one item. And if it is false, so we want to still suggest several items, this system prompt can be here. So now we have adjusted the options on how to compose our system prompt. So now let's give the users a control to choose one of them. On the prompt dialog page type, on our prompt dialog page, let's create a new variable that options will have. So we have There we go. And then within in the area prompt options, let's add a field and with a caption, number of suggestions. Then every time we want to generate a response, generate suggestions, we need to act upon this choice that user has made. So after we set the user prompt here, if the suggest option is single, include only the best suggestion, then we want to run set suggest single item. Perfect. Let's see. Control F5 to publish and observe how our extension changed. Now, when we click Suggest with Copilot, we have this option here where the user can select their choice. So let's generate. And then change that option to only include the best suggestion and regenerate and see if we get one suggestion only. As we can see, large language model is not respecting our choice here, which meaning that the prompt is not optimal. Let's see if we can quickly adjust it to do that. Maybe it is being confused or it is prioritizing this line more. So let's comment it out. And of course, we need to check if the suggest single item is true and not only if it exists. Perfect. Let's try again. And let's try again. Generating multiple suggestions first. And then asking Copilot to include only the best suggestion. While our prompt is still not optimal, we can clearly see the change that changing that option did. And that concludes task 4. There is more to the prompt dialog page type than what we discussed. And here is a very advanced task to explore the history. Because the prompt dialog page type supports reviewing and changing different generations. For example, let's take the parse guest chair again and use the example of marketing text. Here, if we create a draft with Copilot, and then change something, for example, format, we just need a tagline and regenerate, we can see the history here. It is done by adding each with generation only one record to a source table that we're using for our prompt dialog page type. Currently, in this setup, there is no source table. on our prompt dialog page tab, as you can see here. So for this task, we would have to use the table that we have as a source table, and then adjust and fix some of the methods to not delete records, but always insert them and load them differently when user navigates. This task is quite advanced, and I will not cover it in this video. However, feel free to explore this as well as our other sample app. If you have finished or decided that you are already more advanced, have already seen the basics of our Copilot toolkit, you can explore the advanced app, the advanced sample application that suggests project descriptions. Remember to download the 1p-auth zip file. And I hope you have a great time extending Copilot in Business Central. Good luck.